Hi, this is Pingst of Sweden, and today we'll take a first look at Napoleon Total War. Starting with the tutorials, there are now 3 of them, very easy accessible and good for new players. There are, of course, Napoleon's campaigns, 4 of them, and they are chronologically ordered: Italy, Egypt, Grand Campaign, and of course Waterloo. The best feature in this game in terms of the single player is definitely Napoleon's battles, which probably involves most of the major engagement during the Napoleonic Wars. And they are indeed very, very fun to play, and probably the most fun in any Total War games regarding scenario battles. Of course, not everyone wants to play as Napoleon and as France, rather want to oppose them, and you can do that as either Austria, Great Britain, Prussia, or Russia.
Napoleon gave France greatness.
Napoleon Total War is, for obvious reasons, a lot more personal this time around. This entire game focuses in on one person, that is Napoleon and his achievements. Very much like the Alexander expansion to Rome Total War, but a lot more refined and ambitious. There is a lot more focus on the storytelling, and the presentation is just perfect. This makes it very easy for the player to get involved with the Napoleonic struggle and the time era. And of course, it makes you interested in what is going on, rather than just being a country that expands for empire, like in Empire Total War. There is actually some storytelling purpose behind all this, which makes it a lot more interesting. The campaign map itself is rather similar to the one in Empire Total War, but you will notice that France now had several regions, some 8 of them I think, instead of just the one from Empire Total War. Playing the Grand Campaign as France might make it difficult for you in terms of diplomacy. As you all can see, there is some trouble surrounding Napoleon's France. Pretty much the entire diplomatic map is sparkling red, which means they all hate you. Even though this is the case, there is a lot of new options regarding the diplomatic part of the game. You can now, for example, demand trade embargoes against countries, and you can also demand that other nations join your war. There is a lot of new features like that to the diplomacy. The campaign map compared to Empire Total War is rather restricted. This, of course, due to the fact that this involves simply the Napoleonic era and that doesn't stretch beyond Europe. North Africa is pretty much only a trade route, and Ottoman Empire is not fully represented. The Atlantic and Iceland, of course, is only represented as actual trade routes. There are a lot of new additions to the campaign map and the campaign itself, but I won't go into any details just now, seeing that this is only a first look, and I want to cover everything. Even this balloon. I was quite surprised by finding this little balloon here hovering over the battlefield. That is why I filmed it. Anyway, the battles themselves are... they're pretty much the same in terms of basic gameplay, but they feel a lot of different to Empire Total War, and a lot more stable. Apart from being more polished and overall better, there are some new additions to the actual battles. That is, for one, the picture-in-picture, which gives you tactical information about the situation of your army, and as well, of course, the expanded roles of the general, which are now more important than in Empire Total War. Moving on to the graphics and design of the actual battles. The graphical effects this time around is just marvelous. The artillery in particular, and the weather effects, and of course the deformation of the terrain is outstanding. It makes it feel like a real battle rather than just playing with toy soldiers, which was the impression you got after playing Empire Total War. And in particular after you have compared this game to Empire Total War, Empire seems rather silly in comparison. The destruction of the terrain is just remarkable and a nice feature to this game. Dirt and dust clouds rising from behind marching infantry and cavalry adds to the overall battle feeling. Even when viewed from a distance, it looks great. Same goes for smoke effects and musket fire effects, which are now rather impressive in comparison to the particular Empire Total War, where they were rather silly and weak. In Empire Total War, this problem was solved with modification, but you will not need any modification in Napoleon Total War. The effects looks great on their own with shaky camera and a nice artillery fire, and of course the overall battlefield feeling is rather impressive in this game. It actually feels like a proper battle. Moving in a little bit closer to the units, you will see that there are no clones this time around. Biggest issue of Empire Total War, one of them, was that all soldiers look like clones. In this case, well, they're pretty much related to each other, but they're not clones. There are some 64 varieties of faces in every unit, as opposed to the 4 different faces in Empire Total War. This, of course, if you play at ultra settings. All these new effects and new features in the graphical part of the game makes this easily the most graphical enjoyable, most gorgeous looking war game ever made. The animations themselves seem pretty much the same as in Empire Total War. That is, they still look great. I don't think I've seen particularly much new stuff going on here. I might be wrong though, I haven't actually studied this close up too much, so I will get back to you on that. All regiments now have their instruments and their tune, the marching tune, which is a very nice addition if you zoom in on them. And of course the overall music is, as always in Total War games, very good. Moving on to multiplayer, you will see that there are some new additions, very nice additions. That is a lobby system with rooms, chat rooms, and of course a player list. And you can also chat in the main lobby as well. And of course hosting battles is pretty much the same. Nothing very new here. There are a lot of new maps, of course. Those I have tried so far are pretty balanced and very fun. The new maps are all forged in pretty much the same way that the latest very successful map pack for Empire Total War was. Looking at the actual armies, there are some new features. You can actually choose your general, 1 out of 4, all with different costs. The main armies, the main factions in this game, all have plenty of units to choose from, but when choosing a faction like, let's say, Sweden, you will notice that there are some serious lack of actual units to choose from. This goes for Denmark and Portugal as well, of course. Portugal, which only have 1 type of cavalry. This probably means that there will be some downloadable content available, unit packs, and not too far from the release dates. You can now only choose weather effects which are appropriate to the actual map, which is good, and you can also have a maximum number of 6 spectators, which is also a very nice feature. The scenario battles, more particularly the Napoleonic battles, are extremely good, as I said before, in single player. I haven't yet got to try them in multiplayer, but they seem rather interesting. It all comes down to balancing issues if these maps are going to make it in multiplayer, but we'll see about that later. The overall first impression with this game is that it is a vast improvement to Empire Total War in many ways. I will of course have to spend a lot more time with multiplayer to actually judge this game, since multiplayer is what I play these games for, but I will get back to you on that when I have tried this game more properly.